Well, my favorite gigs are definitely clubs, period. For me, it's where the music came from in the first place. It's where most of the bands are spawned. It's the breeding ground for new talent. And it's a hotbed of feelings between people. It's where you run into people. It's where you bump into people. It's where you get into trouble. It's where you can get out of trouble. It's where you can escape your troubles. The clubs. Well, I guess, you know, one time in your life, you're gonna say, I'll always remember this. This is as good as it gets. And in a way, it was because the word hadn't gotten out yet that this thing was gonna happen. It happened by word of mouth, you know. Suddenly somebody in England said to me, are you going to Monterey? And what do you mean, Monterey? Mexico? Or, no, Monterey, California. There's this thing going to be on, and it's involving the Beatles want to promote it. And the next thing I knew, I was on a jet airplane with Brian Jones and Jimi Hendrix, the guys from The Experience, my management people, Chas Chandler, my ex-bass player, and now Jimmy's manager, and we were flying through New York, and then on from New York into Monterey. And from the minute we landed, from the minute we took off, I mean, we just took over this whole 727 plane. It was ours. There wasn't anybody else on board. And right from the flight over the Atlantic, where everybody just bonded with each other, and when we landed, we were like, the British contingent, you know, the Who's arrived, you know. A friend calls me up from San Francisco, and he goes, Eric, what you talking about? I am here in San Francisco. I didn't bring any clothes with me, and I'm freezing. What is it with this warm San Francisco night bullshit? Well, there was one night in San Francisco where it was warm and it was balmy, and I was as high as a kite, and I was on my way to the Fillmore. Janis Joplin was waiting for me there. I was told to knock on the outside door, and she'd be waiting for me. And she was. She took me by the hand, and she pulled me upstairs. I think it took us about 45 minutes to get from the downstairs stage area, upstairs, through the crowd, around the crowd, and back down the other side and into the dressing room. And in the dressing room, there was Jim Morrison was there. The guys in the Doors were there. It was the first time I met Jim. And he told me, you know, LA's the place, man. San Francisco's all right for weekends, but LA's where it's happening. You gotta come down to LA. And I took his advice. But there was one night in San Francisco, it was warm. Even the cops were smiling. There was a full moon in the sky. And to be at Bill Graham's gig on such a night was inspiring. So that's why it ended up as a warm San Francisco night, as opposed to a freezing cold, rainy San Francisco night, which we all know and love. The song Spill the Wine was inspired by a girl that I met one night at this club. It was New Year's Eve, way back in the 80s. Maybe it was the 70s, who knows. And this girl wanted to ride uptown to Beverly Hills with us to party with us. And she was in the car with myself and Lee Oscar, who was the harmonica player with War. And neither one of us were particularly interested in this girl because she looked like a street hippie. And, you know, even though we were hippies, we really didn't like the hippie girls. We went for the Beverly Hills types, you know. But she was like a hippie girl, so neither one of us took any notice of her. And then when we got uptown, she excused herself, she went to the bathroom, took a little bag with her, and she came out, and she was dressed to the nines. And then suddenly, we were both falling all over her. We couldn't get to her fast enough. And I thought, there's a song in here somewhere. And it came out as, Spill the wine, take that pearl. House of Rising Sun, I've been told by blues folk aficionados that it was originally an English song that came across the pond with the immigrants, and that originally it was about a whorehouse in Liverpool. And it got changed down through the years, as things do, and became an American folk song, and the location it switched to New Orleans. And I remember hearing this song very early on when I was a kid. I think Josh White was the first recording I'd heard of it. And several other people had recorded it, and I knew the first and second verses in my head, and that's all I knew. But that's all I needed to get up and sing this song in clubs. But then Dylan released his first album, and in listening to Bob's version, he'd researched it and come up with more lyrics than anybody knew had existed at the time. What the Animals did was we cut back from Bob's version, cut out a couple of verses to make it acceptably long, which was still by 1960 standards unacceptable because it was over 5 minutes in length. And we just made it electrified it, and took off like a rocket. And it's become more than a song for me. House Rising Sun has become like a way of life for me. The first time I heard the song, I knew it would always be in my life.
So there you have it. Good time rock and roll music that has its roots in the blues. And the blues was originally meant to be a music that would heal your bad feelings. So it's incredible. You can't have the bad without the good. It's also perfect. The yin and the yang of it. It's amazing. I took a walk down by the sea, and I saw how tall I was. Took a walk down by the sea, and I saw how small I was, and I wonder why the world should care for me.
Mother was Taylor. So they knew the dream. Papa was a gambling man, yeah, yeah. Way down